Tonight, we are going to talk about quickly licensing art, characters, and other elements for media, merchandise, marketing, and books. In this workshop, you will master skills you find useful, whether you're creating films, books, merchandise, or digital content. Understanding how to license images, characters, and other elements is essential for staying legal and maximizing your creative potential. Remember not to rely on this workshop for legal or financial advice. You will learn how to use platforms like Creative Fabrica to license millions of images, characters, and other creative assets at incredibly low costs. You will find out how to use licensed content in your work, merchandise, and other products for sale. You will also come to understand the importance of ensuring that the terms of your agreement match your intended usage, and how to get the perpetual right to use the content you purchase in products you design and sell. You will find this workshop very important if you want to accelerate the speed with which you create and quality and quantity of the products you sell worldwide. Use these tools to create kids' books, book covers, journals, clothing, dishware, computer accessories, and hundreds of kinds of merchandise you can use to generate revenue and promote the media you choose to create. Save time and money while producing better products through using licensed content. As a creative professional, it's easy to get trapped in the notion that you have to create everything you sell. But the truth is that licensing content can allow you to do what you do best, while legally using the work of other artists doing what they do best. Licensing work has never been easier. Sites like Creative Fabrica, Design Cuts, Master Bundles, Creative Market, Pond5, and Design Buddies give creative props a place to sell their work for other authors to buy and use. There's literally no kind of content you can't license through these platforms. And by combining licensed work with your own creative elements, you create unique works you can sell worldwide. It is important to read and understand the license terms each site offers. I like the terms for Creative Fabrica best. They have POD licensing, which allows me to create products that I can use to produce products for sale using print-on-demand services like Redbubble, Lulu.com, Spoonflower.com, etc. A print-on-demand service will let you design a product, then sell it with no upfront costs. You can use your design to create baby clothes, books, journals, cups, tumblers, blankets, etc. For example, if I'm writing a book of Christmas poems for children and I want to get pictures of Victorian families around beautiful Christmas trees, I can license that work and place it on the pages of my book, and then sell the book without having to pay additional compensation to the creator. If I have produced a horror film that I want to interest audiences in, I might license a spooky font to use on my posters. I might use the posters to create coffee cups. I might send the poster and the coffee cups to people who review movies, along with a link to where they can find my film online. As you look through the licensing sites, make sure to read their terms and conditions. Some have multiple contracts. For example, some sites give you access to almost all the content on their site if you buy a subscription, but you have to keep the subscription for as long as you are selling work that uses licensed content. Some will let you buy a worldwide POD license for a fixed fee. If you have questions about which license is required for what you want to do, you can usually reach out to the people who run the platform for help. They field these kinds of questions all the time. Note, if you do license content, make very sure you hold on to your proof of purchase, because that is what lets you prove you are legally incorporating the licensed work in your own work. What is licensing content? When an individual creates an original image, story, artwork, music, etc., they own the copyright for it. They have the right to make copies of the work and to sell, rent, lease, or lend to work to others. They have the right to perform the work or incorporate the work into performances they do. They can publicly display the work and promote it. Visit copyright.gov to learn more about what copyright is and how creators register their work with the U.S. government to make protecting it easier. One of the most powerful rights a creative has is the ability to license others to use their work. If you are a writer, you may license a producer to put up your play in New York in the month of December in return for a payment of $10,000. If you are a producer who owns the copyright for a popular science fiction film, you may elect to allow another producer or studio to make a sequel. You may have gained that right through the contract you signed with the writer who wrote the screenplay. In the same way, an artist may create a font or a family of spooky characters, and they can sell a license to use that work to you. Their terms may say you have to combine their work with other elements. Alternatively, they may give you a right to use the work exactly as is. You can elect to license work from any copyright owner. Generally speaking, it involves working with a lawyer to draft a contract which specifies the rights you are acquiring, the limits of your use, the duration of your use, and how much you will pay. By working with a platform where creatives go to make their work available for easy licensing, you save a lot of time. They provide a standard contract that clearly outlines all this information, and for a simple fee, you can purchase exactly what you need to do the work you want to do. But the reason I wanted to do this workshop is that not many creatives know they probably should be licensing content. Licensing is very cost effective. It almost always costs less to license content than to create content. You can buy a lot of content for tiny amounts of money. For example, you may spend $5 for hundreds of images, $20 for a song you can use in dozens of projects. Licensing is flexible. You can elect to license content from multiple artists to use on a single product. You may well elect to combine that content with original media that you create to make something entirely unique. For some licensing agreements, the incorporation of original elements is a requirement for using the work. Licensing is marketable. You can create content for merchandise that supports the media you are making, a film, documentary, animation, etc. You can use it to create merchandise you want to sell. Let's talk about how to find the licenses for content you want to use. When you visit platforms that license intellectual property from artists of all kinds, you will find a link on the platform that lists the license you can purchase. If you can't find it, Google the platform name followed by the word licensing. Licenses typically state whether or not the work you are licensing can be used in making media you distribute worldwide or incorporated into merchandise. Print on demand, POD, payment terms. For example, if you sell 150,000 of your print book, you must pay the licensing fee again, etc. They may tell you that you have to significantly modify the image or use it in combination with other elements in order to use it in your products and content. Make sure you understand the limitations of your license and consider paying more for a better license. Most platforms have a chat or email option to ask questions about the license they offer. When you are purchasing a license to use content, its terms may require you to use the content exactly as it was created with no changes. This is a common thing when you are licensing very well-known characters, logos, etc. For example, if you license the logo for the Notre Dame football team, you will not get permission to modify it because they don't want you to damage or change people's perception of their brand. Usually that's fine because the reason you want the content is because it is something people know and love and already want to buy. It is actually more common to use licensed content as elements in creating your own unique pieces. For example, you might license content from several artists to create a pattern to use on fabric, wallpaper, kids' books, book covers, etc. Because there is so much content available on these sites, you can almost always find the content you need to create exactly the kind of work you want to sell. Now let's spend some time talking about fonts. Surprising as it may seem, you can't just use any font you find on the internet. Many fonts, especially ones you find on the internet that are marked free, are free for personal use. So if you download them and use them to create an invitation to a birthday party, that's fine. But if you download them and use them to create a poster or title sequence for a cartoon, film, TV show, or documentary, you may be contacted by lawyers who want to see your commercial license for the font. So, fonts used in your books, films, products, websites, apps, and art must be legally licensed just like any other kind of artwork. I mentioned in passing that, generally speaking, you own the original words you write, even when they come out of someone else's mouth. Similarly, you can't incorporate quotes from someone else's work or lyrics from someone else's songs, unless their work is out of copyright or your use of their work falls into the category of fair use. I'm not an attorney, and you should not rely on me or anyone who is not an attorney on issues like this, but I've known people who have run into legal trouble for incorporating music and lyrics into the books and screenplays. This means that it is not just the font that matters when it comes to the words you put on merchandise, incorporate into books and journals, etc. It's also what those words say and where they came from. There are free fonts that come with Google Docs and Microsoft Word licenses, and when you get a subscription to Canva or Adobe Photoshop, you get licenses to a lot of fonts. But often to have your text hit exactly the right emotional note, you'll probably be licensing fonts from a site like Creative Fabrica or Adobe Fonts. After you license and download a font, you'll go into your design application and it will give you a way to upload your fonts. For example, Canva lets you upload fonts as part of your brand kit. I wanted to mention there are some fonts that are simply cool symbols, borders, icons, emoji, etc. They're often called dingbat fonts. Once you have licensed your content, you will use tools like Adobe Photoshop or Canva to create your final designs. I and hundreds of millions of others find Canva easy to use. It does require a paid subscription, but it provides you with a lot of sophisticated editing tools, licensed artwork, fonts, and music you can use to create documents, products, books, and more. Adobe Photoshop is a state-of-the-art editing application, and there is no image you can't create using it, but it can take some time to learn. You may want to sign up for the Adobe Creative Suite if you want Photoshop to create images, Premiere to edit video, Character Animator to create cartoons, etc. You can use appropriately licensed content to create images and media in all these applications. There is something important you need to know as you work with licensed artwork. Usually when you are producing a product with your artwork, you will want to export the images you take into your print-on-demand service at 300 dpi, which is to say 300 dots per inch, which is to say pixels per inch. So if you are creating a little poster that will hang on a wall in a bathroom, you might decide to make it 8.5 by 11 inches in size. To make the image so it will print at 300 dpi, you must multiply the width and height by 300. That means when you create your image, you will tell Canva or Photoshop to create a 2550 by 3300 pixel empty page to start. That's 8.5 times 300 and 11 times 300. And I mentioned in passing, you always say the width measurement first. 8.5 by 11 means 8.5 inches in width and 11 inches in height. Sometimes for large-scale projects, murals, blankets, wall decals for use in interior design or stage decoration, the file at 300 dpi gets too large, and you end up creating an image at lower resolution, 100 dpi. So a 60-inch by 90-inch twin comforter you are creating to support your children's book series might require you to create a 6,000 by 9,000 pixel image. The image will be a little fuzzier than a 300 dpi image would be, but the file size is much smaller. Canva has limits on how big an image it can create. Adobe Photoshop can create huge files, and it might be a better choice as an image editor if you will be working with very big images in your projects. If you were creating a book in Canva, you might define a presentation with many pages, and you might set the default page size to 2550 by 3300, which is to say 8.5 by 11 inches at 300 dpi. You can then download a PDF you can upload to lulu.com or Ingram Spark to be printed. You can specify if you are the only one who can buy the book, or if it should be made available for sale on Lulu, Amazon, or in bookstores. Remember, you may be required to prove you own or have legally licensed any content used in your book. Registering your works at the Copyright Office lets you prove that you own the text. The license agreements you download from sites where you license work will be what you submit to prove you own the images. When using a site like redbubble.com to create products, you may want to download a template for the product you are trying to create. You can take that into Canva or Photoshop and use it to lay out your artwork perfectly. Hundreds of millions of people are making and selling products, books, housewares, etc., incorporating licensed content. You too can license content to create more quickly and cost-effectively. It is not hard at all to license content to create original art that fully expresses your creative intention. If you need a dark forest, a fairy garden, Victorian families, monsters, dramatic fonts, roses, daisies, face cars, pinup, men and women, etc., you can find it. The cool thing is, when you buy licensed content through sites that have millions of designs, you have a very clear license you can rely on and know exactly how much you need to pay for the work and exactly how it can be used. You can also prove you have a right to use the work. Furthermore, if you abide by the terms of your license agreement, you know you have a legal right to use the work, to make money producing products and media, and to promote the products, media, and services you sell. If you happen to be a creative artist and you have a lot of unused content you wouldn't mind selling, consider licensing your work through these sites to earn money from each sale and to passively collaborate with other artists. You can always choose to work with a lawyer, if required, to fully understand what you can and cannot legally do with content you license. You can also work with a lawyer to license content from individual artists. You can license the right to make a screenplay from a short story, create a series based on a film script, etc. It's never been easier to find a lawyer to advise you on licensing issues. Just make sure to check them out on the State Bar Association website and to talk to 5 or more before you decide to work with one. So let's dive into quickly licensing some content. This is Creative Fabrica. They have millions of images, fonts, and other elements you can incorporate into your work. You will start by creating an account. I don't personally have a subscription to this site because when I purchase content here, I like to buy a POD license. It lets me use the content as much as I want in any products I create without having a subscription to the site, but I do have an account on this site and it keeps track of everything I buy so I can prove I bought it. To find content, I type in a search term. If I'm interested in Christmas content, just enter that in the search box. If I type a Christmas bundle, I get very cost-effective collections of content I can license. You'll note that it brings up a huge amount of content right away. If you start looking through the options, you will see there's content you can use for books, for journals, for calendars, for merchandise, and for 101 other purposes. And if I want, I can refine the search to get content that meets additional criteria. For example, I can search for a Christmas fairy bundle. You'll see the pricing is insanely reasonable. When you find something you want to purchase, you have an opportunity to choose the license you want to buy. On this site, I always buy the full POD license because it gives me the right to use the artwork in an unlimited number of projects, on its own, or combined with my work to create original works. Once I purchase the work, I'll be given a link to download it. Note that Creative Fabrica keeps track of what I've purchased and which license is associated with it. It gives me access to that data through my account. It will come as a .zip file. Since I have a Mac, once I double-click the file, it will open, and I'll be able to find all my files. We talked a lot about fonts. You can find a bunch on the site. You can buy fonts one by one or in bundles. I rather like purchasing them in bundles because I find that I get more for my investment. Let's pop over to Canva so we can see how we can use this content. When I choose Create Design, I can specify a custom size. The largest size it likes to work on is 4500 by 5500 pixels. Once I have created the image, I can drag the content I have purchased in. In this case, I'm going to drag in an old man I've purchased previously. Then I can go look for other content I've purchased, like vintage interiors. When I pick an interior I like, I can drag it in. I can move the new image back so the old man in the chair is on top, and I can use the BG Remover tool to get rid of the background. Then I can place him where I want him to go. I can then look around for another character to put in the image. I can remove his background and scale his size to make him part of this page. Now let's apply a title using a custom font. To add a font in Canva, you click Brand and then upload the TTF or OTF file you purchased. Note, Creative Fabrica will give you those in a zip file, so you'll have to double-click it or open it using whatever unarchived tool you have. Once you do that, it becomes just another of the fonts you have access to. I've purchased dozens of fonts, and it is interesting to see how changing the font changes one's perception of the images and other content the font is associated with. When I'm happy with what I've created, I can download it as a PNG, JPG, or PDF. For books, you will create a Canva file that has lots of pages that are the right size, 200 to 300 dpi, and you will upload the PDF to a site like Lulu to become a printable book. You will have to create front and back cover images as well. So now let's take a quick look at Redbubble. I have previously created an account, and now I'm going to indicate that I want to create a new work. I just have a black text on a transparent background picture. You have to put in a description and search terms that people can use to find this product going forward. I'll automatically put the picture on a bunch of products. I can determine if the image is okay to be on kids' clothes or grown-up products like hats, clothing, blankets, cups, and other things for other people. You can then modify the products, repositioning and scaling the image as required to get the appearance you want. Or you can click on the Enabled button to disable the product entirely. You can replace the image at any time. You can repeat the image to create a pattern. You can also choose the color of the products you are applying your image to. Some products, like backpacks and bags, provide templates that let you specify exactly where the image is on the product. When you click Save Work and affirm that you aren't creating adult products and you are abiding by the Redbubble terms and conditions, your product goes live. If it is your first product, there might be a delay of a few hours or a couple of days until they approve it, and you can create as many products as you like. You can order them through the site to give to others, like actors, agents, producers, family, friends, etc. Or you can promote the link to the store and let people buy what they want. Merchandise is how many content creators make money creating what they love, and doing it with licensed content makes it fast, easy, and cheap. Remember, you can email Nancy at nancyfultonmeetups.com if you have any questions or want to book time to talk about your own projects.